This is the Diamond Hawgs Podcast with Mason Choate and Robert Stewart.
Welcome to the Diamond Hawgs Podcast. I'm your host, Mason Choate, joined, as always, by Robert Stewart. And Robert, it seems like the Razorbacks might have found their bats.
Doesn't it though? I mean, 21 runs on 20 hits against Grambling State on Tuesday. How about that? And they hit 500 with runners in scoring position too. It was it was a get right game. It served its purpose. 9 for 18 with RISP. It was a very productive outing in just 6 innings, really.
You know, one thing with Arkansas teams, at least in recent history, it seems like they've struggled against a Grambling team like this that's going to throw out dudes who don't throw, harder than 85. But I feel like it's exactly what the doctor ordered for some of these guys. Because you think about, half the lineup is new faces. And I think specifically, and this didn't exactly happen with Vahiva Aloy, but maybe a guy like Jason Jones where you're just trying to catch up to the speed of the game and he hits 2 home runs, including a grand slam. Like that's a Jason Jones game. Now, for him to carry that over, that's one thing. That's a completely different thing. Because now, you're saying, okay, you did it against 59-mile-an-hour curveball guy for Grambling, but can you now do that against SEC competition? And so that's to be determined. But yes, the get right factor of it. The fact that they just, put bats to balls, finally hit a home run. Did you know they were on a 5-game streak without hitting a home run?
I don't think I realized it had reached 5 games, but I knew they didn't hit one while we were in Texas. But that's a good point that you bring up. Usually they struggle against this lower velocity Grambling team, and I remember they had the one dude throwing the curveball under 60 miles an hour. But yeah, I mean they certainly responded to it well this time.
All right, so Arkansas currently sitting at 6-2 overall on the year, the number 2 overall team in the nation, according to D1 Baseball, which we determined on Monday is the only one that you follow. A lot of people got upset with me for getting upset with College Baseball Central, which respect to them, they're bringing more eyes to the game. You always respect that, and you're thankful for that. But I mean, when a team wins a head-to-head, that they should probably be ranked ahead. I realize that Oregon State only had 1 loss, but that 1 loss was to Arkansas, which was ranked below Oregon State.
And also the season's like 7 games old at that point. So like, I that's definitely a reason to give the edge to the head-to-head team there.
Well, and a lot of people, like you said, 7 games into the year, I'm not upset that Arkansas is only number 5. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I'm smart enough to realize that rankings don't matter at all in college baseball, but um, I think that they were intentionally and purposefully being wrong, and that's why I got upset. So that's um we can talk about that more later. But you got Murray State this weekend on today's episode. If all works out, because we haven't done the interview yet, but if all works out, we're gonna have Murray State left-handed pitcher Thomas McNabb. I don't know if we've ever had an opposing player on the podcast, have we?
I don't think we have. We got close in the regional last year. While I was training for my internship in Austin, I met somebody who knew what was his name? Eamon something for Santa Clara. Gosh, I have it right here. Eamon
Nobody
Lance,
cares.
the DH. Eamon Lance. You remember him? He hit like a home run or two against the Hogs in the Fayetteville Regional last year.
Cool.
Anyway, I couldn't believe it. Anyway, yes, it'll be the first opposing player on the pod, should it happen.
Should it happen? Yes. We have this thing where we kind of like forget that we have to do the podcast until Thursdays, and then we try to like schedule everything on Thursdays sometimes, and it doesn't always work out. But we're hoping to talk with Thomas. He graduated from Conway High School in Arkansas with me, and so we were just talking with each other this week, and it's a little weird because it's like, dang, it's actually been like 5 years since we graduated high school. So I have at least reached the point in my life where I'm looking back on the good old days of high school. So shout out.
It's a weird time, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So I want to remind everybody before we really get into the weeds of all this episode that we are brought to you by HawgBeat.com, HawgBeat.com. That is the Rivals website covering your Arkansas Razorbacks. If you visit it today, you'll have all that great coverage that you want covering your favorite team, not only baseball, but football and basketball. unfortunately, the basketball team lost to Vanderbilt. I don't know how much you want to read about the basketball team, but we've got spring football previews up there, a ton of baseball content. Plus, if you subscribe, you can be on the Trough message board, which is where we put all of our insider info, plus a lot of other good stuff. So make sure you subscribe to HawgBeat.com today. Would really appreciate it. A lot of great stuff going on over there, as always. And then BetSaracen is the mobile sports gambling partner of HawgBeat.com. It is also the mobile sports gambling app of the Saracen Casino Resort. So download it today and you'll get those double R props. And when I say that, those are player props for Arkansas baseball. And I really don't know where you can get where else you can get them. I really don't think you can get player props for Arkansas baseball anywhere else. And if you can, you're not going to have as many options as you will on BetSaracen. So if you're an Arkansas baseball fan, you like to gamble on Arkansas baseball, you do need to be in the state of Arkansas, but there's no better app than BetSaracen. So I highly encourage you to get it and gamble responsibly. Robert, you had something to say.
Yeah, did you decide if you're going to Rupp this weekend?
I'm not going to Rupp Arena, dude. No chance that I'm driving 10 hours to Lexington, Kentucky and back, especially after they lost to Vanderbilt, bro.
Baseball guy right there. Proud of you.
Well, here's the thing. We booked the hotel in Lexington after they beat Duke. So at the time, it was a great hotel booking. I was super excited for the trip. I was honestly looking forward to the trip until maybe like 2 weeks ago. When I realized, okay, this team's really not going to turn it around.
I remember the conversations we've had and watching the dread start to set in about that trip. So good for you for just deciding to eat it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm not going, man. I'm not going. I'm going to watch Thomas McNabb pitch. So let's get into it. Let's talk about these Murray State racers.
Sorry, I had to unmute there. Yes, let's talk about these Murray State racers. Some interesting stats for these racers. They are 2-2 on the road, if I'm looking at this correctly. They lost to SEMO, uh, frequent Arkansas midweek opponent, SEMO, and then they took a weekend series 2 of 3 from ULM this past weekend. I guess we can start with the rotation. I think this is how it's going to go. They're all old, right? You got 2 graduate players and a senior on Saturday. If things shake out the way I think they're going to, starting with Jacob Pennington, they're all right-handed as well. Jacob Pennington on Friday has only pitched 1 game, but it went quite well for him. If I can find his stats. Yep, 7 innings, 4 hits, no runs, no walks, 9 strikeouts against the Warhawks last weekend. Solid start for Pennington there. And then how about Cade Vernon on Saturday? He had a nice start in his opener, not so nice last weekend. He's up to a 6.52 ERA on the year. Total of 7 earned runs allowed, 13 hits in 9 2/3 innings. And then how about graduate righty Ryan Fender on Sunday? Ryan Fender, who is working with a 3.52 ERA in just under 8 innings pitched. So there you go. You got an experienced rotation for the racers, and it will be interesting to see how the Hogs respond to them.
Yeah, the thing about these type of weekend series is that normally this is going to be a team that's going to have a good shot of winning its conference. I'm going back through our week by week predictions to see how Riley, McFerrin, and Cabo picked it. They both picked Arkansas to sweep this week. So Grambling, let's see. I wanted to see if they had any like preseason all conference players. Outfielder Dustin Mercer, infielder Drew Vogel are names to keep an eye on. And that's it. So like nothing crazy about preseason players. Let's see how those guys are doing. That because that was before the season. Vogel hitting 375
with an OPS above 1,000.
Yeah.
He's one of several players. This Murray State lineup, the stats jump off the page a little bit.
Yeah. What'd you say their record was? You said they're 2-2 away. Yeah.
2-2 on the road, 6-2 overall.
Yeah. So Carson Garner has 5 home runs for them. He's kind of raking
5 of their 11. So I mean, he's getting it done. He's slugging over 1,000 right now.
He also has walked 11 times, and that's a team high. This dude's getting on base.
4 strikeouts.
He's getting on base. He's got a 632 OBP.
Talk about a Moneyball guy.
Yeah. That would probably be the Moneyball guy if we were covering Murray State. So
Yeah, I would say look out for him and wouldn't be surprised to see him intentionally walked at least once this weekend.
here's the thing about previewing Murray State for us right now, though, is that if we do indeed have Thomas McNabb on, he can just tell us everything we need to know. So Thomas, though, 2 appearances on the year, 3 innings pitched, giving up 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. How many batters has he faced? Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that or not.
Thomas McNabb. Sorry, the text is small
I
on this
know.
stats page. Bad radio. Say it, Mason.
It's horrible radio what's going on right now. I would just expect you to have the answers to all my questions.
I can't see a
Okay.
batter's face on this stat sheet.
Well, that's fine. We can ask him. But yeah, no, interesting. I'm gonna have to ask because like when he was in high school, the dude was topping out at like 82. He was not playing college baseball. It was the same with James Hicks. And I talked to him last year. He was a pitcher for South Carolina, pitched at Conway High School in Conway, Arkansas. Both of them went to Crowder College actually. So shout out Crowder College, Peyton Holt U. So, but let's take things back because I realized when we were previewing Murray State that we didn't really talk anything about the Grambling game. So let's talk about that. We got to talk about the pitching. Hudson Polk hit a grand slam in his first at bat. A pretty eventful Tuesday game for the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Hudson Polk getting his season started with a little 5,000 OPS. It came back down to earth a little bit, but um, yeah, dead center. It was the fourth different guy to catch a game for the Hogs this year in what, 8 games?
Yeah, 4 starting catchers in 8 games. How about that?
Don't see that every day,
I
every
don't think.
season.
I mean, like Bubba Carpenter, who's the color analyst on the Arkansas radio broadcast, he said that he's never seen it before. So that's a guy who's watched a lot of baseball.
Yeah, yeah, that's it's certainly a unique thing there. Yeah, and I mean the bats just, they didn't waste any time, right? 7 runs in the first, took advantage of some errors, which, as we mentioned on the last episode, they didn't really seem to do in Arlington. Save that one in, I think it was the 4th run they scored against Oregon State when on the drop pop up. But yeah, I mean they got after it right away, hit around in the first inning, sent 11 men to the plate. First 6 guys who came to bat scored. It was it, again a get right game.
Yeah, so I was going back to find my story. All but one of the 13 Arkansas batters had a hit. Every single Arkansas batter reached base in the game.
Every single
Uh,
batter scored as well
that's crazy. The Moneyball guy, Peyton Holt, reached in all 5 at bats. He
in the
scored
9
3
hole.
in the 9 hole, scored four runs. Um, we mentioned Jason Jones earlier, had the 2 home runs, 6 RBI in the game.
Do you have metrics on those home runs?
Um, I have footage for sure.
I mean, he
For
smoked those 2 balls
Polk's was a 420-foot grand slam, 421 foot. Sorry.
to center, which is very impressive.
Yeah, I don't. I know Jones's grand slam was 425. I know both of his home runs were definitely 400 plus. So yeah, he smoked both of them. You hope that that gives him some confidence moving forward. Mentioned Hudson Polk. He had the grand slam, drove in 4 runs with 1 swing. Kendall Diggs had a couple RBI knocks in this one. So that was good to see, as Dave Van Horde would say. Will Edmondson led off for the second game in a row, scored 3 runs, 2 hits, 2 walks. Yeah, man, it was an all-around good game at the plate. I'm trying to see who else did we see in the game. Ross Lovich had 3 hits, a couple RBI knocks as well. Jack Wagner got in the game. Nolan Souza played some shortstop late in the game. That was interesting. It like if Fahiba keeps struggling, you have to start talking about something like that. You just
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
So yeah,
Can
man, it was a good game at the plate.
can we circle back to Kendall Diggs for a minute? Because I feel like we haven't talked much about him at all this year, and yet he's quietly put together a 400 batting average with an OPS at almost 1100.
I think it's because he hasn't hit any home runs. If he hit 1 home run, we would probably be talking a lot more about him.
I think you're right. I think you're right. But 5 of his 12 hits are doubles.
Isn't it crazy that Jason Jones's 2 home runs on Tuesday is now good enough for the team high. Nobody else has more than 1 home run on the year.
Hey, I mean, that seems generally to be a staple of DVH's teams, or at least in the past several years. But we're not seeing it. So I mean, to this point in 2024, it's interesting.
It is. I want to talk about the pitching on Tuesday because honestly, it was grambling. So let's all take a second here to just think about the opponent and
Let's
just
let's not
analyze
start
it.
any Golden Spikes campaigns.
Let's really mull over it and chew on it for about 8 seconds here and just realize Arkansas was playing Grambling on Tuesday and just think about the fact that I could have played baseball for UAPB. I definitely could have played baseball for Grambling. Like I almost brought out the UAPB Photoshop on Tuesday because I was like, these dudes, man, look. They're playing college baseball, but I could play that level of college baseball. I could go on the mound and throw 59. I could.
Mason, are you ready for April 23rd in North Little Rock?
Uh,
Are you gonna suit up for the Golden Lions that day?
I might. I forgot that they're playing UAPB there, but I might. I might have to hit up their head coach and let him know I have eligibility left. So, okay, but so Colin Fisher got the start. A little, when I first heard it, I was like, "That's weird." DVH made it seem like he wasn't going to throw. He only went 1 inning. Uh, and here's the thing: the first 5 names that I'm going to list are all scoreless. All of them went scoreless. So Colin Fisher goes an inning, walks one, strikes out one. Parker Coyle, 2 innings, gives up 1 hit, strikes out one, walks none, retires all 6 batters he faced. Cooper Dossett, the most electric inning of the day. He goes one, strikes out the side, strikes out all 3 batters he faced. Cooper Dossett, we got to talk about him. We got to talk
Yeah,
about him.
yeah.
Christian Fouch, one scoreless, walks one, strikes out one. Gage Wood, one scoreless, 2 strikeouts, no hits. All these guys faced the minimum except for Colin Fisher. He walked one. And then Tate McGuire there in the top of the 7th, of course, gave up the shutout, unfortunately. But he still struck out 3 batters. Gave up 1 run on 3 hits, but struck out 3. So you take it and you give it. You won by 20 runs.
Those are things you can afford to do when you're up 21. Yeah.
But Cooper Dossett, man, the movement that he had going on some of his pitches, and I mean, he was sitting 95, 96 on the velo. He was really impressive. Logan Forsythe, who is now going to call some Razorback baseball games on the SEC network. I was tuned in to his broadcast, and he was speaking very, very highly of Cooper Dossett. Bubba Carpenter also speaking very, very highly of Cooper Dossett. Um, and even last year, like I remember before last year, before his freshman year, he was the guy. He was one of the freshmen, along with that group of like Bybee, Fouch, Coyle. Dossett was right outside, and he was kind of the odd man out. I want to say he might have had an injury last year. I can't remember.
Yeah, it started in the or not started necessarily, but we noticed he was trying to come back from it like in the winter scrimmages, and then we didn't see him until late in the season, right?
Yeah, something like that. It was a weird first year for Dossett because I do feel like the two, at least like maybe the 2 preseason scrimmage weeks leading up to last year, he had really come along and made it seem like he might contribute, and it just didn't
Right.
happen.
And he went so long without pitching, and then he stepped in and burned his red shirt. It was kind of a strange situation, but there were like 4 different injuries to important arms last year, so
Yeah. That
maybe he had to step in.
I'm trying to pull up the games. So he pitched on against TCU in that 18-6 game early in the year. He gave up 4 runs
Oh,
on two
that's right.
hits.
That's right.
Yeah, he
So his
walked
red shirt was
3.
burned early on.
Yeah, that was really bad from him. But yeah, no, it's just another arm, man. They contend. It seems like every pitcher who has thrown has done well for Arkansas this year. I'm trying to think of like, has there been anybody who hasn't thrown well that hasn't bounced back from it? Because we've seen some bad outings. I mean, Hagen Smith had a bad outing. Um,
Right. And then Pitt followed it up with the game of his life, right?
even Coyle, bounced back from his bad outing with 2 scoreless.
right?
Yeah, I don't think anybody has had a bad outing and hasn't come back or at least I don't think anybody's had only one bad outing and that's it. Everybody else has looked good at least some point this year. Dossette's the
I
only one who's thrown who only has one outing, so
right. And it's funny, right? Because I feel like I've talked at least a couple times this year about that batch of sophomore arms and totally forgot to mention Cooper Dossett, and yet he's absolutely one of them. And you know who's a huge Cooper Dossett guy, fellow Springdale Bulldog, Andrew Hutchinson.
yeah. Well, Dossette's not a bulldog. He's a wildcat. He's a Harbor Wildcat.
Ah, that's right.
Yes, I feel like there's probably like a big rivalry between those two. Shiloh Christian's also there. I know people don't like Shiloh at all. So, um, which I like Shiloh. I I I do like Shiloh. I want to make that clear. I like Shiloh, but there are people who don't like Shiloh. But yes, Dossett, product of Springdale Harbor, who if I took this computer that I'm recording on and some might be watching on YouTube, which shout out to the people who watch on YouTube. I get messages anytime I don't upload a video public to YouTube saying like I like to watch it on my TV. So don't know why you're watching our faces on your TV, but really appreciate it. But if I did take my camera here or my computer that I'm recording on, which is actually my wife's, so if the quality sucks, I'm sorry, my computer broke. I could show you Harbor High School. That was a long-winded answer to get you to the fact that I live within viewing distance of Harbor High School.
I can confirm this. I've been to his house.
Yeah, so I don't care about Harbor High School. I just can see it. So shout out Cooper Dossett, the former Harbor Wildcat. Okay, so I think that's Tate McGuire. Yeah, man. Here's the thing. I thought about like being like, man, Tate McGuire gave up the shutout. That really stinks. But then I was like, Arkansas is up 21-1 right now. I'm not. He struck out 3 batters. I'm sure Tate was not happy with his outing. So he'll get it figured out.
He will. I mean, that's just one of those where like go out there, get your inning, feel more comfortable with your stuff at this level and build on it.
Yep. Yep. Good bullpen day and good day at the plate for the Razorbacks against Grambling. Okay. Before we move on here, I want to remind you about HawgBeat.com, HawgBeat.com. Just check it out. Look, just give us a shot. Just look at it. Just click on a few stories. Just go to the website, click on a few stories. I guarantee that you will read it and be interested in it and find it to be high quality content that you're not really going to get anywhere else. We spend time working on these stories, forming them, shaping them, editing them, put in the little details in it so that it's not only reads well, but it's visually pleasing for you. So I highly encourage you to visit the website. We work very hard on all of our content on HawgBeat.com, including this podcast, which is also brought to you by BetSaracen. That is the mobile sports gambling app for the Saracen Casino Resort. We talked about it, the double R props. Look, I'm not a gambling guy, but if I was, if I was, on Monday, I probably would have taken the Jack Wagner player prop, and I would have hit if I took that. So, you could have done the same if, in theory, you were a gambling person. You could take those player props for Arkansas baseball, and you could have made some money on Jack Wagner getting a hit in an RBI against Grambling, because that's literally free money. How the heck is Jack Wagner not going to get? He even pitch hit and got a hit in an RBI against Grambling. So. Look, when the money's that free, you got to take it, and you got to get on BetSaracen if you're in the state of Arkansas. So, highly encourage it to download the BetSaracen app today. Okay. Go
Mason,
ahead.
was that the first time you were gambling on Grambling?
That I did not gamble on Gramble. I did not do it, Robert.
Not a gambling guy.
Not a gambling
My
guy.
bad.
Okay. Ooh, you almost got me there, buddy. That would have been bad. You're trying to get me in trouble, Robert.
I would never.
All right. Before we get to Thomas McNabb, let's talk about a few updates from the head coach himself, Dave Van Horn. He definitely provided an injury update on Peyton Stovall after Tuesday's game. And here's what he said. I'm not going to play audio, by the way. When I said that, I felt like I was going to hit play and play some audio.
I also thought that was coming.
Okay. He says, well, I'm probably not the right guy to ask. Classic DVH answer. when answering a
Please let us
question.
talk to the trainer.
You've probably got to ask Peyton or our trainer, or our doctor. I'll just say right in the middle. So he said 5 weeks total, not 5 weeks left. So maybe a couple more weeks. The initial timeline was 4 to 6 weeks from February 5th. So while I read, Robert, you do the math on that. But he's moving around good. He's throwing, swinging the bat off a chair, whatever we can do to just keep him going. As soon as he gets cleared to where he can start seeing live pitching, we'll have some of our guys throw to him. Plus, he's standing in on guys getting loose in the bullpen. We're just putting a screen in front of him. Don't want him to have to jump out of the way with a broken foot. He wants to play. He's already told me when I get back in the lineup, I'm never coming out. So I hope that's the case.
Wow, that's bold. I mean, there's no reason not to believe him. But you said 5 more weeks. It's been 3.5 since that first update.
No, I'm saying 5 total.
5
So
total. Okay,
5 total from February 5th.
yeah, so
Is when he
we're
broke his
talking
foot.
about a week and a half from now.
Okay. Which would be, who do they play next weekend?
It's McNeese State, isn't it?
Okay. Probably. Sounds right. So, yeah.
So we mentioned at the outset when we were talking about his injury for the first time that we're talking about like the start of SEC play. So theoretically, he should be back for that.
Yeah. I think at this point he could definitely be back. I think you can sit him for that McNeese State series, let him or even bring him in, just let him get into the groove. You know, baseball is a little bit of a different sport, whereas like maybe in football and basketball you would sit them to let them get fully healed up. I think baseball you might actually want to play them instead.
The reps you got to get the timing back and the reps in those games would be important, I think.
It could be like a rehab assignment against McNeese State for Peyton Stovall.
Precisely. Good analogy.
Yes. Okay. A few more interesting notes, just like small little things. I wanted to remind you that Hudson Polk could potentially DH. So we talked about his grand slam in his first at bat. DVH said on pregame he had been swinging the bat really well in the preseason. I think that's something we've talked about. You know, Hudson Polk wants to be a coach, but also he's swinging the bat really well. Like when you talk about this catcher room, he's definitely at the bottom. That's why he was the 4th one to start. You know, no offense to Hudson Polk at all, but he's swinging the bat well enough where DVH was definitely like, yeah, he could DH for us if needed. So another option. And then another DH name that you might be thinking about, Reese Robinette, Big Country. Some instances so far this season where I thought he could come in and pinch hit. Sounds like he could redshirt Robert, which would be interesting.
It would be interesting for him to play as a freshman and then redshirt as a sophomore. I feel like that's not a common occurrence in college baseball, but
I think the reason they want to redshirt him is because they're upset that they played him last year. Dave said, I don't want to just play him a little bit. He played a little bit last year, so it could be a situation where he redshirts, but we don't know yet. We're just going to keep working him, and we think he's going to play here. We just want to make sure that we're fair all the way around there. So I'm cool with that. Like if you say, hey, we're going to redshirt Reese Robinette as a sophomore, that way as a junior he can be an everyday starter because we know he's going to take a step up because he's the type of guy that could, I mean, he could have a Chad Spanberger type season. He's that good at the plate. He's a really good hitter.
it does feel that way. And the other thing is we've seen it in game too. I mean, he he could not play another college baseball game and he would have a huge accomplishment to talk about, which is having a pinch hit home run at the eventual national championship winner last year. I mean, that was a huge knock, and it's it's a shame that he hasn't gotten too many chances to build on that, but at the same time we know it's in there. It'll come whether it's this year or next.
Yeah, no, I agree that it's going to come. I really agree that it's going to come, Robert.
You're crazy.
So
How
let's
about that silence, man? Move on. Good Lord.
Okay, so we got Arkansas versus Murray State this weekend. Let's get into some bold predictions for the weekend. Robert, I hope you have bold predictions because we didn't even talk about this. We didn't even prepare for this.
We did not prepare for this. Oh gosh. You want to go first here?
Yeah, I'll go first with my bold prediction. I'm going to say that Vahiva Aloy hits 2 dingers. I'm going to say it. I should actually check the weather before I say this because I did not check the weather before saying this. The weather is a huge factor when it comes to Fayetteville, Illinois. It's going to be 70s all weekend. Fayetteville, Illinois, 2-home run weekend. He's really look, dude. It's to me, it's now or get benched. To be honest, like once you've reached 3 weekends, I know he did well towards the second half of the first weekend. What did he do on Tuesday? I can't even remember. I think
Aloy.
he had a
Aloy was
hit. He had a hit. That's
one
it.
for three with a double. And I meant to mention this too. That double, when he hit it, you could just see a huge ear smile from second base. So you could tell he was excited to finally get that knock.
Yeah. So the double is going to give him the confidence that he needs. Look, I'll go as bold as to say he's going to hit a home run in his first at bat of the weekend. He's going to hit 2 home runs. Vahiva Loy, give him 2 dingers.
Announce his presence with authority in the first one. I like it.
Hey, he's a little bit country, but he's also a little bit reggae, if you know what I mean.
I know what you're talking about. Is it bold enough to say back-to-back 6-inning shutout performances from Brady Tiger?
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
he's got a sub 1 ERA this year, right? So like it wouldn't be unusual, and yet to have 3 really strong starts back to back to back, uh, Hagen Smith is ineligible to do that so far. So,
I mean, you could say Hagen Smith strikes out 18 batters.
yeah, I could, but I'm not feeling that one.
Speaking of Brady Tiger, though, we had an interesting thread on our message board, the Trough at HawgBeat.com this week, talking about Tiger. And, it was after the weekend series, before the Grambling game. And it was really, what do you do with the lineup right now? And a lot of people were saying, we're trying to take Tiger out of the starting rotation and maybe throw a freshman like Gabe Gackle or Colin Fisher. That way you could have Tiger as a closer and maybe you win the Oklahoma State game. And you don't have as much trouble at the end of the Michigan game. I don't like it. It's the same situation. I get it. I get it. I completely get it. If the lineup's not working, like if the lineup isn't working, then you have to change something with pitching because you don't have a choice because the lineup's not working. I get that. But at the time, we were only what? How many games into the season are we now?
8.
8. So we were only 7 games into the year when the thread was up, and I was like, okay, I'd rather leave the guy who threw 6 scoreless in the starting rotation. But also, it's a situation where, like last year when Hagen Smith was the wild card and he wasn't starting, and they would bring him in on Friday, and sometimes that would be the only time they would use him. And it's like you could get 6 innings out of Hagen Smith, or you could get 3 innings out of Hagen Smith. Same thing with Brady Tiger. I would rather have 6.
I would rather have 6. I mean, they spent all year, despite his injury last year, building him up to showcase his stuff in a starting role. I don't know why you wouldn't do it now.
And
Um,
also he's been good. It's not that like he's been struggling and it's like, okay, let's change it up to help him get his mojo back. He threw 6 scoreless against Oklahoma State and they lost.
right. Like I said, sub 1 ERA, sub 1 whip. Those are ridiculous numbers. I mean, granted, he's played what, James Madison and Oklahoma State, so it's not SEC competition, but you can only pitch against the teams you're scheduled to pitch against, and uh he's given up 1 run in 11 innings. I mean, let that continue. Okay, circling back to the bold prediction, I will say his numbers are as good or better than his Oklahoma State start. Recapping: 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, no runs.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, we've got a Brady Tiger quality start, basically, and a Vahiva Oloy 2-home run weekend. Those are our bold predictions. Let us know your bold predictions on Twitter if you want to tag us at Diamond Hawgs Pod. We'll definitely not respond. I don't respond to anything on Twitter. For good reason, because I don't want to get in a fight with anybody on Twitter. Not really about it anymore.
But
So
we'll at least read your bold
we will.
predictions.
Maybe we'll even throw you a retweet. Maybe we'll do that. So yeah, big weekend ahead for the Hogs. Any
Yeah.
anything bad going on in your life this week, Robert? Because my computer broke and I'm just like really struggling right now.
Bad. I don't know. I mean, I have to go to work as soon as I jump off this pod, so
Yeah.
maybe that, but no, not really. We're not in Arlington anymore. That
Yeah.
was cool.
I'll tell you what, man. I don't know. I don't remember if I said this on Monday or not, but Arlington kicked my butt. It was a
Did it?
long weekend.
It certainly was a long weekend,
The
and it
14 inning game on Saturday was just not it.
and then going out drinking after said 14 inning
What?
game.
What? You went out drinking after that game?
I mean, I was off of work. It was my Friday night.
I'm just kidding. We all went out drinking. We had a good time. All right. Let's get to Thomas McNabb, my good friend, my good buddy from high school, and left-handed pitcher from Murray State.
The Diamond Hawgs Podcast is the premier Razorback baseball podcast.
All right, we now welcome on Murray State left-handed pitcher Thomas McNabb. He's a product of Conway High School, the greatest high school in the dang state of Arkansas. Isn't that right, Thomas?
That's right. You know it is.
Okay, so are you happy? This is my first question. Are you happy that Austin Ledbetter is no longer on the team? Just because you don't want to have Bryant guys, anywhere. So now you don't even have to worry about him being on the Arkansas Razorbacks, especially with him being so good in high school at Bryant, dude.
We're just
I
not
don't
going to
know if
acknowledge Will McIntyre. Sorry.
I forgot McIntyre went to Bryant too.
He's
Man.
a Bryant kid.
Yeah. But Thomas, man, we're happy to have you on. Just first of all, I know you came back with the team when y'all played at Arkansas State. You came back to the state of Arkansas, but now coming to Fayetteville. Just being back in the state, how excited are you? I'm sure you'll have a ton of family there.
Dude, man, it's awesome. Kind of when you play college ball, you kind of think of the things, growing up watching Arkansas. It's like when you don't go there, you're like, man, it'd be awesome to be able to play at that field because, last time I was on that field I think it was 2018 state championship, and we got beat pretty bad by Harbor. So, being able to be here and have a bunch of friends and family who I'm in my 5th year of college, and some of them hadn't even seen me play yet. So being able to have that opportunity is amazing, man. I can't wait. I'm excited.
What's the
Robert,
coolest ballpark you've played in so far? I mean, I imagine Baum-Walker could top that list on Friday, but
It could, but a close up to the top would be Simplizio Field, Junior College World Series. That was pretty awesome too.
sorry, Robert, I interrupted you earlier, but I was trying to ask Thomas about that 2018 Conway team because it's starting to become a pretty loaded team now because you've got Jordan Wicks, who was a first-round pick. You got James Hicks, who's now in the bigs. You got you. I feel like I'm forgetting someone else. Reed Hughes. Was Reed Hughes on that team?
He is. He plays football at Auburn, and then Cade White played baseball at UCA for a little while. So we had a pretty good squad.
Yeah, that you guys lost to Harbor and Blake Adams, right?
Yep, he did it all himself too.
Yeah, that was tough. So then you went to Crowder College. James was telling me that he had no intentions, or James Hicks, that is, former South Carolina pitcher, for those who don't know, also from Conway. He was telling me that he didn't have any plans to go play college baseball, and then a coach from Crowder saw him pitch in summer ball and then talked him into it. Was yours something similar, or how did your story go to get to Crowder?
Yeah, man, it was pretty similar story. So I wasn't really, being from Conway, I wasn't just dying to play college baseball. I was just going to go to UCA and be a college kid. And Coach Gum and Coach Harlan over there at UCA actually ended up offering me a preferred walk-on spot at UCA. So I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. Might as well. I'm already going to be going to school there. Ended up getting in to the baseball side, and I was like, man, like I'm really happy I didn't give it up. Like I still love this game like I always had. And then my freshman year was COVID, so we got cut off. I didn't travel, didn't have any innings logged or anything like that. So I was like, I'll go back. I have no reason not to leave, COVID. So went back for the fall, had a good freshman year, did not have a great sophomore fall. My exit meeting was kind of like I was planning on transferring to junior college, and then they were like, what do you think about junior college? So it kind of lined up perfectly. And then they had a couple schools in mind, and I had called James. I was like, hey man, like I'm looking to go to junior college. I talked to Crowder a little bit out of high school, but didn't really want to take that route. What do you think? And he was like, yeah man, no worries, I'll get you in touch with the coaches. And then playing summer ball for Chase Brewster and the Arkansas Sticks, one of the assistants at Crowder was also Arkansas Sticks coach, so he hit me up, and then that's kind of how that train got rolling. So pretty similar story there.
How much has the JUCO level playing at the JUCO level helped you with your baseball career? I mean, Arkansas fans know quite well with Peyton Holt and Cody Adcock coming out of there a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and countless guys before that. But I'm curious about you.
Funny story. Peyton was my roommate my first year at Crowder, but just being on a team with guys like Adcock and Peyton Holt and Jacob Mizorowski, who's a second-round pick, topping 102 miles an hour. You get to see and you get to face that competition daily at practice, and then you kind of get to play with those guys, when we're playing other teams. So it's just a bond that's created. And then when you're a successful program like Crowder is, you get to go to, the regional tournament, district tournament, and then like we did 2 years in a row, got to go compete in the JUCO World Series, which is one of my roommates here at Murray actually walked us off at the JUCO World Series. So a lot of connections made through the junior college world, and is the reason I'm at Murray State today.
When you think back to JUCO ball, everybody talks about just the crazy things that you have to do, like keeping up with the field, all that stuff. What was the worst part of JUCO ball for you?
I think I told this story the other day. So whenever we got snow, the high school in Neosho, which is where Crowder is a turf field, and so we have an all natural field, so it was soaking wet, iced over, covered in snow. So what we had to do is get up, I want to say like 8 a.m. the morning before a game, and we were going to play at Neosho High School, but it had a layer of ice on it. So the whole team spiked up and went and walked across the ice so we could break it up so the sun could get through and heat up the turf so it could melt and we could play that day. So that was one of my better junior college experience stories there.
Hopefully, this one will be as well. You mentioned you were roommates with Peyton Holt, who's quickly become a fan favorite in Fayetteville after hitting like 400 something, close to 400 down the stretch, taking over for Peyton Stovall last year. We need a good Peyton Holt story. You got any of those?
Good Peyton Holt story. A good Peyton Holt story would be back again, JUCO World Series. He's playing, I think this is 2021. He's playing left field and dives for a ball, misses the ball, somehow manages to grab the ball underneath him on the ground, put it in his glove, holds his glove up, and umpires call him out.
Man.
So he's got the JUCO World Series.
He's got a little finesse to his game.
Yeah.
You got to be a good salesman.
On a big stage like that, he can do it.
So Dave Van Horn has called Peyton Holt a spark plug. When you hear that and you think about Peyton and his game, what do you think about Dave calling him a spark plug?
I think that fits him perfectly because Peyton, he'll laugh. Not the tallest guy in the world, but that kid, he's strong and he's full of energy. So on maybe not a sunny day or rainy day, energy's low. He's gonna be able to spark it up and get everybody going.
I want to talk about the other guy that I mentioned that Arkansas fans know well, Cody Adcock. He had a great start one day last year, or maybe it was a relief appearance. I'm not sure, but it was the first time we had spoken to him as members of the media in a post-game press conference. And he got there before the rest of his teammates who were supposed to talk to us that day. And he was just up at the table, like looking at the box score and asking a whole bunch of questions about all these stats. It was like, Cody, have you ever seen a box score before, dude? Like, did they give you guys box scores at Crowder?
No, nope.
So
well,
it's a foreign concept then. How about that?
We got a pitching chart, and you filled out pitch type, ball and strike, and result, and that was pretty much all we did there.
Wow. Okay.
Kind of just throw you out there and let you play.
I mean, it's okay. That's fine. It's just, I guess all we know is box scores. We're just like stat nerds.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are out there doing the real stuff. So
yeah, he was like, "This is the greatest thing I've ever seen."
Yeah, he was like a little kid at a candy store. Thomas, let's get back to your career though. So you go from Crowder to Murray State. How did that process go? And I'm always interested to hear about other teams that maybe you were talking to and stuff like that.
Honestly, it was pretty long process because I didn't pitch a whole lot at Crowder, but I still got the reps I needed with the players we had in practice and things of that such. So I graduate from Crowder. Our season's over. I'm still looking for a 4-year, and it gets to about I want to say July, and I'm narrowing down. I'm like, Murray State has texted me, but haven't laid anything down on the table yet. And I've got a pretty good offer waiting from Southern Arkansas University, good D2 down in Magnolia. And I was deciding between those two, and um, Coach Lawlerman at Crowder called me. He said, as soon as our head coach at Murray, Dan Skirker, he said, as soon as he offers you, take it. Like, that's the guy you want to play for. He's got JUCO in him. He's a great coach. And I was down to my last day. I was, kind of holding out for him. I was like, all right. I think it was a Tuesday. And I was like, if they don't offer on Wednesday, I'm going to commit to Southern Arkansas. And I was actually working, and at lunch, Coach Skirka called me and ended up offering me, and I pretty much took it on the spot. So it was a pretty hectic, 1 or 2 months after my JUCO career was over and looking for a place to go in August. But I'm glad it all worked out. I'm happy as can be here.
Nice. I can't imagine Murray State has like a huge media corps. Like, we talk about Arkansas, and there are two rows in the press box covering every game.
Mm-hmm.
What is the media experience like for you as a student athlete at Murray State? Like, do you get student reporters there? Is there a professional?
Yeah, so not professional reporters, but it's a younger core of student reporters that'll, kind of do what you guys do, and probably not on the scale that you guys do it, but I think it's something that's definitely up and rising at Murray State, especially with the basketball team. They've kind of been historically pretty good, so that definitely helps out. So I think it's starting to spread around to baseball and softball and football and other sports as well.
When you look at where you're at now, and you look back to, say, that 2018 season with Conway, like, when you look back at where you were at, how far have you come, and what would you say you've improved the most at?
I just think, it was crazy. I weighed 140 pounds probably that year.
Yeah, you were a small guy. I remember watching you on the mound, and I remember when you committed to UCA. Like, no offense at all, I was like, Thomas is gonna go play at UCA. Like,
I got
this dude
lucky that
throws
I
like
got offered a
82.
walk-on spot there. Yep. I think I
Um,
topped. I think I sat 78 to 80 my senior year. But I think just being around the game and the knowledge that I've gained from different players, different coaches, and obviously good pitching coaches develop pitches, and being able to develop some velocity, I would have never thought in a million years that I'd be sitting in a hotel getting ready to play Arkansas whenever I was a senior in high school.
Right. So you guys have a pretty big opportunity in front of you this weekend. Obviously you're going to want to go out there and win, every game, but even if you were to go out there and get swept this weekend, like, what does this experience do for you guys in a season where, like, you're playing a high caliber program, and you've got a mid-major league schedule ahead of you? Like, does this give you a bunch of confidence going into league play, having played against, the number 2 team in the country?
I think playing in the Missouri Valley, which is a competitive mid-major conference, I think coming up here and playing a school like this, and say we do get swept, but being able to compete with the arms they have and the offense that they have, I think, Indiana State we're supposed to host a super regional last year, but things didn't work out. So I think this is good preparation for us to, being able to get back and competing with schools like them, Missouri State, who's good every year, Evansville. So I think this will be a good experience for us and a lot of our players to play on a big stage like Baum Stadium.
So, for you personally, the start to your season, how's it gone? What's gone well? What hasn't gone well? And what are you looking for this weekend?
Oh, it's compared to last year. I think we started 2-7, 2-8. So it wasn't a great start. So I think we're playing good ball right now. I don't think we're playing our best ball. Arms have been good. Offense have been good. I think we're leading the conference in all the pitching categories. So I think a big test for us this weekend will be how our arms can face a top to bottom lineup like Arkansas has, which I think we'll do a good job. And then offense, obviously, Arkansas's got some pretty good arms. So I think they're excited to be able to face top caliber arms like Arkansas has.
I know you said you've played a state title game in high school at Baum-Walker before, but have you like been to a Razorback game there? Or did the Razorbacks mean anything to you growing up?
Oh yeah, I was a huge Hog fan growing up, but I think 2018 state championship was the last time I've been to Baum-Walker Stadium. So it's exciting to see the also advancements that have happened, like the in right field, behind right field, all that stuff's new. That stuff's awesome.
Another question here about Murray State, because so you talked about the media coverage and stuff, so hard to figure out some stuff. This is actually from a friend of ours, Andrew Hutchinson. Pennington and Valero. Why didn't they pitch last weekend? Do you know?
Pennington started Friday. Valero came out of the bullpen on Saturday, and it was kind of so our opening weekend. Pennington didn't pitch.
That's
We
what it
played
was.
Purdue.
Pennington
We
on the opening weekend.
we played Purdue Fort Wayne, and it was supposed to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we ended up going doubleheader Sunday, and then game 3 on Monday, and then midweek on Wednesday, and then back to Friday night weekend
Wow.
series. So weather kind of tossed some things around, but I mean we handled it well, and Pennington shoved. So
All
I
right.
think we'll be ready to go this weekend.
Hey, let me ask you about Carson Garner, because when I'm looking at y'all's stats, his just catch your eye right away. I mean, he's hitting 440, he's slugging over 1,000. Can you tell us about what he does well other than hit the ball really hard, I'm sure?
I say he hits the ball hard. He's got a good eye. He draws a lot of walks. He's even pitching against him in the fall. He's a tough out. So, if he gets a pitch he likes, it'll go a long ways.
Are you still pretty close with James Hicks and Jordan Wicks from Conway?
Yeah, yeah. I talked to James. I try to talk to him close to 3, 4, 5 times a week. Jordan, he's a little bit busier guy playing for the Cubs and all, but I'll see him when I go back to Conway and still, I still try to pick his brain on some baseball knowledge. So yeah, I still keep in touch with those guys too.
I was gonna ask, do you ever like work out with those guys or throw with them or pick their brain at all just about baseball and pitching and stuff like that?
When they come back home, I try to get as much of that in as I can. James kind of fluctuates between going back to Columbia and working out at South Carolina there, and Jordan's schedule's all over the place, going meeting people, signing. I don't know what he does, but he does all kinds of stuff with the Cubs. But whenever they're in Conway, I usually try to get together with them and kind of talk a little bit of ball with them.
This is a really niche thing, but it would help me prove a point in the future. I love to tell people about how good of a kicker Jordan Wicks was in high school. Can you tell the people about how good of a left-footed kicker he was?
Unbelievable. I think probably if he wanted to, he could have kicked at K-State. I mean, that guy was nails, about as nails as he is a pitcher. I mean, he
Yeah.
sets up the kick and it's going in regardless.
Another Jordan Wicks question. So he was, I mean, literally undefeated his senior year at Conway until that state title game. Um, I know when he went to K-State, he was Big 12 freshman of the year, just really blew up. Were you expecting that from him? And maybe also two-parter, were you expecting him to blow up? And was he ever upset about maybe Arkansas not offering him or anything like that?
I haven't talked to him that dead about it. I knew he was going to be a dog because it's Jordan. You know how Jordan was. I think he wanted to go to Kansas State and, be a weekend guy immediately, which, at Arkansas, I think he could have done it, but, they got some dudes there. I think who was in the rotation his freshman year? That'd have been, I don't know, Blaine Knight maybe, or is that too far back?
2019, so Isaiah Campbell, Patrick
Yeah.
Wicklander. Who was the third in that one? Can't remember.
Was it Noland?
Noland, yeah. Noland was a
Yeah.
freshman that year, I think. Yeah.
So, but I mean, I think K-State was a good fit for him, kind of get away from the whole Central Arkansas deal because, he's committed to A-State and then ended up decommitting from there and committed to K-State and kind of just took off from there.
This is a JUCO question. So, as someone who has gone from JUCO to a bigger program and has seen success, um, how hard is that jump? Because Arkansas has some guys right now Will Edmondson, I think, is a guy specifically. He's batted leadoff the past 2 games, but he's just come from JUCO. How hard is that jump, or is it hard? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough jump. I think the thing that sticks out, I was actually thinking about this the other day, is the depth on 4-year, Division I schools. Like, we'll play JUCOs and they'll have a good top 3 hitters, and once you get through the top 3, top 4, you'll be all right. But then when you get to move on to your next program, it's going 1 through 9, 3 weekend starters, 5 guys out of the bullpen that can all 90 with 3, 4 different pitches. So I just think it's really the depth that's the biggest jump.
I'm gonna jump in and steal Mason's questions here. We discussed this earlier, but during the fall when we would watch scrimmages, if a guy was underperforming, and I'm gonna truthfully say right now that I've never said these words, but I've heard them said a lot. If a guy's not doing well, I've heard it said that he should go play his sophomore or junior year, whatever year it is, at Crowder. Do you find that offensive at all?
I don't think it's offensive. I think just because of how good Crowder is, like the program, I think it's a chance for them to, because we had a few Arkansas bounce backs on Crowder, and they ended up moving on to school. So I think it's more about getting reps than kind of sitting behind somebody who's very talented. Obviously, it's good to learn from those guys, but baseball is all about getting reps too. So I think if you go somewhere like Crowder and get the reps in, you could end up either right back or somewhere on the same caliber as Arkansas.
It definitely felt like that was always said in a disparaging way, but that's a good way to look at it for sure.
No, that's a great answer, and I'm definitely the one who says it, but I'm glad that you answered it that way, Thomas, because I know some people specifically who have been told one thing by a school, whether it be Arkansas or another school, and then maybe that doesn't pan out because they get some other player, whether it be they didn't get drafted or they didn't end up transferring to whatever school. So maybe when you were in JUCO, did you ever experience like that type of guy coming in, where maybe, say he was committed to Arkansas, just for example, it could be another school, and it just didn't really pan out. And then, last resort, he's going to go play JUCO ball and at Crowder for a year. Did you ever experience that or something?
I think a great example was Clayton Gray. He committed to Arkansas his freshman year of high school and went for 1 semester, and then came to Crowder, and now he's starting every game in center field or left field maybe for Austin P. And then Jackson Cobb's a good example. He went to Arkansas for a semester, came to Crowder, and then now he went from Kansas, and now he's starting at Georgia Gwinnett, who's a top NAIA team in the country. So I think you see it, kind of let them get there to Arkansas and kind of see what they're getting into, and realizing that it might be till their junior year before they play, and they don't want to wait that long. They want to get the reps in now, so they kind of bounce back to JUCO, and their careers really start there, to be honest.
From my pining through Crowder rosters, players who fit that bill include Reese McWilliams, Landry Wilkerson, and Trey Harris, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yeah, Landry, good buddy, great buddy of mine. Went to Crowder, went to Arkansas, went back to Crowder, and now went to Louisiana Lafayette. Now he's at Southeastern, another top 5 NAIA school, starting I think almost every game. So no, it's not all the same timeline, which is the beauty of baseball.
So that, all the different schools that you're talking about, him bouncing around, that process of just baseball, of the communicating from different coaches, recruiters, scouts, like I'm sure you experienced. You talked about how it was, a stressful time. What's that like, especially now with social media where you're so accessible? Like we booked this interview through DM on Twitter.
It's stressful, because you don't know like who's like, I didn't know when I transferred to Murray State, I did not know a single person. So having to worry about going in, making friends. Hopefully you fit what the coaches want, which is kind of what you set up visits and all that kind of stuff for. But it's definitely stressful trying to figure out if what you want kind of matches what they want on the same page to an extent.
All right, this is gonna be my last question. What's next for you, man? You're a redshirt senior now. Do you have eligibility left? I mean, so
I don't have eligibility left. Hopefully had a pretty good year last year. Hopefully to bounce off it this year and look at my chances for pro ball, and kind of if that doesn't work out, then we'll, let life take over and see what happens.
You might have to work your way back down to Conway. That would be unfortunate.
Hey, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
How often do you go back home?
In the fall, I went back 3 times, one for my sister's wedding, and then I won't go back until summer, probably this semester. So,
all right, man. Well, Thomas, we really appreciate it, man. It was fun to catch up, to talk to you, and we wish you the best of luck this weekend throughout the season, and hopefully you can play some pro ball with the rest of the Conway boys.
That's right. I appreciate you for having me, man.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to watching you throw this weekend, man. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Diamond Hawgs Podcast. Follow the guys on Twitter at Choate Mason and at DRStew32.